If you've been thinking about moving to Folsom, California or Granite Bay, California, then you have no doubt heard of the other town. They are right next door and share a border, and a lot of my clients are considering both of these towns when making a move to the greater Sacramento area. In fact, these are two of the best and highest demand Sacramento suburbs in the entire area. Now, you've also probably noticed there's a price difference in these two communities, with Granite Bay sitting at $400,000 more at the median home price. Now that's a significant delta, and it's easy to assume $400,000 more, I'm getting a lot more for my money in Granite Bay, but that's not actually the case. These two places have very different lifestyles. You could be sitting at home and thinking, you know what, I'll just save the 400 grand and I'll move to Folsom, that's gonna be better. Or I'm willing to pay the 400 grand because I want what Granite Bay has to offer, because it's gotta be more, right? And that's not gonna be exactly true. It depends on how your family wants and likes to live, because these are two very different communities with very different vibes. So by the end of this video, I'm going to help you answer the question, which one of these communities is right for you? I'm going to compare them across 8 critical criteria in my town versus town format, so you can decide which one, if either, works for you. And if we haven't met yet, my name's Rich Curtis with eXp Realty. I've been selling homes here for 22 years now in markets ranging from the Great Recession to the COVID market in Sandy and everything in between. So when it comes to Sacramento real estate, I've got you covered. This video, as well as my others, will help you make strategic, smart decisions about your move. So let's jump right into it with criteria number 1 to compare these two communities. Criteria number 1 when comparing these communities or any communities is the community vibe or feel. What does it feel like to live there? And in this case, these two places are quite different, and you wouldn't really suspect it by looking around online. So let's break it down. Granite Bay is going to have a much more residential only feel. There's not a lot of shopping or commercial development out there. There are neighborhoods with homes on bigger lots with more direct access to nature, versus Folsom, which is a master planned community, lots of shopping, everything right at your fingertips, easy daily life loop kind of place. So these are going to live much different. The easiest way to say it is Folsom's going to feel like the absolute best of the suburbs, one of the best suburbs you've ever been to. And Granite Bay is going to feel a little bit more like a sleepy town. And that's, neither one is better or worse. It just depends on what your family is looking for. And I'll break that down a little bit more in the lifestyle section coming up, which is one of our 8 criteria. Now, if you want to do a deeper dive into either of these two towns, or you want to look at some of the surrounding towns and see if one of those might be a better fit, we're not going over those surrounding towns in this video, but you can click the link on the screen or in the description down below for my free relocation guide, which goes over all of the Sacramento suburbs to help you choose which one would be best for your family. Now, let's get into criteria number 2. Of course, if you're gonna move here, you're probably thinking about buying a home here, and this is a big difference between the two communities. At the top, I told you we have a $400,000 delta between the price at the median in these two communities, which is significant. So let's break it down. Granite Bay, you're looking at a $1.2 million median home price as of recording this video in the spring of 2026. Now, what are you gonna get for that price? You're gonna get a 2,700 plus square foot home, 4 bedroom, 3 bath, or more, sitting on a half an acre to an acre minimum. But also in Granite Bay, there's a lot of acreage on offer. You can get 3 acres, 4 acres. There's even 5 and 10 acre spreads out there in Granite Bay, and that's not something you're really gonna find in Folsom. But what you're not getting at that median home price is new homes, or anywhere near new homes. These are homes that are more dated, they are older, and in fact, they are a little funky sometimes. All of the homes in Granite Bay were custom built homes on acreage. This is estate style living. Again, more about that in the lifestyle section, but these homes are not going to be sort of cookie cutter built to be universally applicable to every modern day buyer in the way the Folsom homes are. These are homes that were built for purpose for a person several decades ago. And so sometimes you find some funky stuff. You might have a house with 2 kitchens. You might have a house with a tiny kitchen because they didn't care about kitchen, but they have a recording studio and a tennis court. There's just a bunch of wild, different, funky stuff in Granite Bay. And so you have to consider that there is a difference in the kind of home you're going to be getting. Now, Folsom looks like a relative bargain at $780,000 median home price. Now, what are you getting at the median in Folsom? Well, you're looking at more of a 2,100 to 2,400 square foot, 4 bedroom, 3 bath home on a small acre, a 0.11 to a 0.21 at the biggest kind of lot in Folsom. But these are homes that were all in master planned communities, some of them from the 90s and 2000s all the way up to brand new homes. In the Folsom Ranch development, we have a ton of brand new homes coming online. As such, these are homes that have just more universally applicable floor plans. They're gonna look and feel like a modern home, and it's gonna make sense right when you walk in the door. So there's not only a price difference, there is a significant sort of land buffer difference in terms of lot size between the two communities, but there's also just a different style of home with that. Think of Granite Bay, that estate style living, circular driveway, bigger land, more buffer to the neighbors, but custom built homes for purpose to somebody else. Folsom, homes are on smaller lots. They're all closer together. They're in these master planned communities with trail systems and all that cool infrastructure and swimming pools and community pools and clubhouses and all of that. And they're going to be more universally applicable floor plan. If you've made it this far and you're getting anything at all out of this video, click the like button, hit subscribe, and click that little bell icon so you don't miss another video with crucial information to help you with your relocation needs. Now, that price difference really comes into play when we look at the lifestyle difference in these two communities. Like I said, at the outset, you may be thinking Folsom cheaper, boom, done, that's better. Or Granite Bay, I get a ton more for my money, but as you can see in the breakdown of the types of houses you get, that's not necessarily true. But you do get a very different lifestyle in these two communities. And for some of you, Folsom at the cheaper price point is the lifestyle you're looking for. But for some of you, you may be willing to pay for the different kind of lifestyle in Granite Bay. So let's break it down, starting with Folsom. Now look, Folsom is, like I said, master planned communities. These are areas that are all built out to purpose and integrated into the community. There are 50 plus miles of class 1 trails in Folsom. Those are paved trails, bike accessible, stroller accessible, wheelchair accessible trails that link the neighborhoods and a lot of the shopping districts together. So it's a very bike friendly community. There is all the shopping you could ever want or need in Folsom. Every big box retail chain store that you can think of in the state of California, there's one in Folsom, including outlet malls, including higher end shopping over at the Palladio, including movie theaters with lay down seats and cocktail service and food service at Palladio Lux. That's just incredible. There's Costco there, Best Buy, all of it. There are 48 developed parks in Folsom that you can ride your bike to with the kids or walk to depending on the neighborhood you're in. Some of our favorites are Castle Park, which has all the sort of old school wooden and tractor tire type climbing stuff for the kids, or John Kemp Park with its really cool little water park feature when it's hot in the summer. Folsom just has excellent infrastructure. It is voted #1 place to raise a family in California over and over and over again because of this. Planned communities, houses on cul-de-sacs where your kids can ride their bikes and see friends, trail systems, parks, great schools, great shopping, everything you need. If you're driving down East Bidwell, you can pretty much do all of your life errands on the way home every day at the end of work. That's the kind of lifestyle in Folsom. And a lot of great outdoor recreation, but it's the kind of suburban style on those pre-planned trails to pre-planned parks and that sort of thing. Folsom also has access to 2 lakes, Folsom Lake and Lake Natomas. Folsom Lake being better for your power boating and all of that. Lake Natomas being better for your non-power boating, your paddle boards, kayaking, canoeing kind of stuff. Now, when it comes to Granite Bay, it has lake access and way, way better lake access than Folsom. A lot of Granite Bay was designed specifically for neighborhoods to have access to Folsom Lake, not Lake Natomas, so just the big lake. But a lot of these neighbors, you can come right out the door, ride your bike right down to the lake, or get on a trail and hike right down to the lake. And these are more, rustic, outdoorsy kind of trails, not, planned, paved, class 1 trail systems there in Granite Bay. Granite Bay is going to feel like a sleepier, smaller town, not a lot of shopping, not a lot of infrastructure. You're going to go to Folsom or Roseville to do all your shopping. It's really just about the neighborhoods and the lake and the trail systems out there. There's great mountain biking trails and access to the mountain biking trails all around Folsom Lake, and it is, like I said before, really estate style living. So where Folsom's going to be those neighborhoods, house in a cul-de-sac, kids can ride their bike to see the neighborhoods. Granite Bay is going to be homes on bigger lots, further apart, still streets where kids could ride their bike and see neighborhood kids, but there's going to be half as many homes in the neighborhood. They're going to be on larger lots. They're going to have those huge backyards, circular driveways, that sort of thing. So what you're really paying for in Granite Bay is to be out of the hubbub of all of that shopping, restaurants, easy daily life loops. You're paying specifically to be out of all of that, in a quieter neighborhood, walk down, see the beautiful lake, and not deal with all of that daily hubbub kind of feel. So if you're that kind of family, Granite Bay is going to be your jam. Folsom is going to be the, hey, we are a busy family. Our kids are in every sport on the planet. We both work, and we have the, half an hour drive home to hit the grocery store, hit Big Five for some soccer cleats, go meet a friend for a drink real quick, and then get home to the kids. That's the Folsom lifestyle. Granite Bay is more of the wake up, have a cup of coffee, hop on the bike, ride down to the lake, take the dog for a walk kind of place. Now, we talked a little bit about getting outside and playing, and that brings us to the recreation section. And here the two places do differ a lot. Your main recreational opportunities in Granite Bay are going to be walking the dog, going for a road bike or a mountain bike ride, getting down to the lake and hiking around the lake, playing on Folsom Lake. I'm not a big fan of non-motorized boating on Folsom Lake. There are people whizzing around every which way on boats, and it's just not a great place to be out on a paddleboard. There are some sections of it that you can, but I much prefer going to Lake Natomas for non-motorized boating. But you also do have right there at Granite Beach, the big beaches where you can rent the floaties and the kids can play in this little lagoon all day, and that is a nice spot to sort of play and float in the water, and it has the infrastructure with bathrooms and even a little snack shack and all that. That's pretty great down there. And of course, if you're into motorized boating, man, it's great places, real quick access to just go down, launch your boats or your motorized water toys and get going and get playing. That's what the lifestyle in Granite Bay is going to be about. Now, the recreational lifestyle. Now, Folsom, when it comes to recreation, you have a lot more opportunity. You can still pretty quickly access Folsom Lake to put your boat in and go play, go water skiing, go wakeboarding, wake surfing, all that kind of stuff. There's also Lake Natomas there with a great trail all the way around it. This is a Class 1 trail, but next to the Class 1 trail, there is single track mountain biking and hiking through the woods there that's great. And there are multiple put-in points where you can go and sail, row, paddleboard, canoe, kayak. There's a 5-mile speed limit on the whole lake. The only people I've ever seen using a motor on the lake really are the coaches for the Sac State crew team that trains there on the lake. That's the only motor I've ever seen. I haven't even really seen fishermen with a trolling motor out there, so it's a pretty great place, and we get some pretty great wildlife viewing down there with the kids going paddleboarding. There's also those 50 miles of Class 1 trail I talked about, the 48 developed parks I talked about there in Folsom as well. Folsom is also right up to Highway 50, and as you go east on Highway 50 up towards South Lake Tahoe, you get into all of the best recreation available on the western slope of this year, as you can get up to Placerville for all of your hiking, whitewater rafting, kayaking, mountain biking. You can go a little further up Highway 50 for your rock climbing. You can go even further up to Tahoe, and there you have all of your motorized boating, non-motorized boating, hiking, mountain biking, rock climbing, and in the winter you're skiing and snowboarding. So Folsom, they have a sign there in town that says Gateway to Fun, and I think that really is pretty spot on. So when it comes to recreation, I'm going to have to give the nod to Folsom, the win to Folsom here, unless you're just looking to come out the door and ride your bike down to the lake, and that suits you just fine, then Granite Bay would be great. All right, now I've told you everything that's great about these two communities. We've gone over the primary cost of living, the home cost, but what about the rest of the cost of living in these two communities? Well, that is criteria number 5 to compare these two towns, and the cost of living here is going to differ pretty significantly. So let's start with those real estate prices. Well, certainly if you paid $400,000 more for your house or more to get Granite Bay over Folsom, then you're going to have a higher mortgage. You're also going to have higher taxes because of a higher price point, and it's very likely you're going to have higher insurance costs as well in Granite Bay. So all that bumps up your cost of living. Now, what about some of your daily items? Well, of course, gas and food and all that, same communities essentially, so no change there. You might have a little extra commute time from Granite Bay, a little more windshield time in the car if you're commuting for work, a little more on that later, so maybe that costs you a little bit more. But the primary cost of living shift, and this is a big one, is the difference in the power suppliers. Folsom is on SMUD, Sacramento Municipal Utilities District. Granite Bay is on PG&E. PG&E is the most expensive and least reliable power in the state of California, bar none. Now, if you've watched any of my videos, there's no question that I'm a bit of a PG&E hater, and I don't apologize for that. Look, you're gonna pay nearly double for your PG&E power that you would pay for SMUD power. So you could be in like Briggs Ranch in Folsom that is super close to the Granite Bay border, and you could be getting, half the power cost that you are maybe 5 miles away over in Granite Bay. Now you're paying double for your power. Now remember, we're talking at the median 2,700 square foot homes, and they get much, much bigger than that in Granite Bay, and it's hot here. I'm talking triple digits a lot of the summer time. So you're gonna be running a lot of air conditioning. So the power bills are not insignificant in either community, but in Folsom, you're gonna pay half what you pay in Granite Bay for your power, and that is a big deal. Now, in addition to that, you have natural gas in both communities. Both are provided by PG&E, so that's gonna be about the same there. Now, also, not just are you going to pay more for the power in PG&E territory, but PG&E, when it gets hot, when it gets windy, when the power grid gets taxed, they do these PSPS, public safety power shutdowns, where they'll do rolling brownouts, rolling blackouts, shut your power down. The longest of these happened during lockdown and the pandemic in 2020. We had our power shut off for 3 days here in PG&E territory where I live, and SMUD wasn't doing any of that. So you're in Folsom, you're getting the power at half the cost, and it's much, much more reliable. That is the primary difference in cost of living in these two places. And it's not insignificant when you start to stack up a higher mortgage, higher insurance costs, higher taxes, and then you add in the higher cost of running the house month to month and the likelihood of being in a larger, older, less efficient home in Granite Bay. That starts to really add up to make Granite Bay considerably more expensive on cost of living than Folsom. All right, criteria number 6 to compare these two communities is fire insurance. And fire insurance is a big deal, not just in our area, in the entire state of California. If you have been watching the news at all about California, you know we have some pretty significant wildfires, and each one of these drives the cost of insurance up. So insurance is a big deal, and it's affecting all areas, even a place like Folsom. But there's going to be a difference here. Folsom is going to be in a lower fire severity zone than Granite Bay. It's going to have cheaper insurance than Granite Bay. You're going to be looking at $2,500 to $3,000 a year in insurance over in Folsom on the average, if it's not a huge custom home that's going to be expensive to replace. Of course, your mileage may vary. These are just general ideas. Can't hang your hat on these exact numbers, but in Granite Bay, you'd be looking at a minimum of $6,000, be easy to get up into a $9,000 to $10,000 policy, and on a massive on acreage custom home, you could be $20,000 plus for your annual insurance premiums. So the fact that the homes are bigger, custom, more expensive to replace over in Granite Bay on more acreage and in a slightly more fire-prone area means you are going to pay more for your fire insurance over in Granite Bay than you do in Folsom. You are also going to have access to less carriers in Granite Bay. You'll have the sort of full swath of the insurance market available to you in Folsom, and only specific carriers over in Granite Bay. So that is something to consider when comparing these two communities. All right, we're getting down to the end here, and if you still aren't sure whether Granite Bay is right for you, whether Folsom's right for you, or maybe you want some specific advice for your specific situation, because let's face it, real estate is hyper local and hyper personal, then feel free to reach out to me via the contact information on your screen or in the description down below. My name is Rich Curtis. Like I said, I've been selling homes here for 22 years now. I've helped hundreds of families just like yours decide where to land in the greater Sacramento area, and I'm always happy to help. Now let's jump into criteria number 7 when evaluating these two communities, which is schools. And let's face it, if you're relocating as a family, schools are a big deal. Now, if you don't have kids, skip ahead to our last criteria number 8. But if you got kids, this section is for you. But I won't bury the lead. You're not going to be sad in either community. There are great educational options on offer. When you look at online the scores and the ratings for these schools, if you use greatschools.org, you'll see that, Folsom High and Vista Del Lago are like a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, always on greatschools.org. These are excellent schools with excellent athletics programs, and Granite Bay High is going to have about the same rating. So these are really great rated schools, and you're going to be happy in either community. There's going to be more middle schools and primary schools on offer in Folsom than there are in Granite Bay, and there's going to be even new schools coming online, in fact 6 of them in the Folsom Ranch south of 50 development in Folsom. So if you're looking for brand new schools or new school facilities or more options, more school of choice options, then Folsom is going to be your jam. You've just got the couple of local schools there in Granite Bay, but they are all Excellent. Now, what if you've got a college-bound kid who's about to be going off to school, but they're going to do those first 2 years at a junior college, save some money, figure out what they really want to study? Both communities are going to be excellent for this as well. In Folsom, you've got Folsom Lake College, which has a campus there in Folsom and a satellite campus up here in Placerville. And then over in Granite Bay, you'll have access to Folsom Lake College with a very short drive, or another very short drive over to Sierra College in Rockland, which is the only junior college in Placer County, but is an excellent junior college, especially with sort of EMT and paramedic programs and that sort of thing. So in either community, you've got great access for that soon-to-be college-bound kid that wants to live at home and knock out the first couple years at a JC. Got great access to that in both communities as well. Now, one caveat that I say in all my videos, and I hope you really pay attention to this one, is that when you're reading test scores and looking at gradeschools.org, scores online, you got to take it all with a grain of salt. The only way to really tell whether a school is good for your kids is to get boots on the ground, go to that school, talk to teachers, talk to administrators, watch how they interact with kids, learn about the programs they offer, whether those programs line up with what your kid is interested in. In my area, there's only one school that still has auto shop and wood shop, and my kid is really excited to be able to take both of those classes. At some other schools, they are known for having an excellent drama program, and still other schools, they have amazing sports programs, and it really depends on what type of kid you have, which school is going to be best. I've got 2 kids, and the same school isn't right for both of them. These are individual, unique little human beings, and you need to go and actually spend a little time at the school and make sure you're comfortable with that school for your kids. So if you're going to come out and you're going to tour the area with me, you're going to tour a couple houses with me, you're going to get to know the area and think about whether it's right for your family, I encourage you to take an extra day in your trip where you go off on your own, meet with some schools, and get a sense of them for yourselves and pick the right spot for your kids. All right, last but not least, the criteria we have here for number 8 is commute and job opportunities, employment. So here we go. Now, wherever you move to, you got to work. Now, if you're a remote worker, maybe that doesn't really matter anymore. But if you're going to be looking for a job, then these 2 communities have very different job prospects on offer. Let's start with Folsom. Number 1, Folsom is directly on Highway 50, quick access down to Sacramento, which has the most broad and diverse job market of any major metro in the state of California. We're talking about the farm to fork capital of the nation, so restaurant jobs. We're talking about all of the state and county jobs on offer there, a ton of education jobs, the political jobs, and all of the job categories that support the political work down there, the recreation and tourism stuff with the arena and the hotels and the hospitality, and it's a big conference hub as well, so all the conference centers. Ton of work down there, easy access from Folsom. Still pretty easy access from Granite Bay, but you can add 15 to 20 minutes to your commute by being out in Granite Bay. Now, directly in Folsom, we have some tech employers, although they're shrinking, like Intel. If you've watched any of my other videos, you'll know that Intel has been shrinking its presence in Folsom, but there's still Intel there and some other tech firms. There are a ton of schools, and there's also a lot of medical infrastructure right in Folsom with hospitals, emergency rooms, surgery suites, all of that kind of stuff right there in Folsom. So if you work in medical, Folsom is a great place to live. Now, let's not make too big of a deal of this because you're only 10 to 20 minutes to get to all of that from Granite Bay. So if you can stomach a 10 to 20 minute commute, you can still live in Granite Bay and work anywhere in Folsom. Now, you also from Granite Bay have access over to Roseville, and Roseville is one of the most major medical hubs in the Sacramento area with big employers like Kaiser, Blue Cross. There's a ton of hospitals, surgery centers, all of that. If you're in the medical field, Roseville is a great place to target for job shopping, and you've got pretty easy access to that from Granite Bay. So if you're in the medical field, really Granite Bay or Folsom would work for you. If you're working in North Sacramento, you might get a little nod to Granite Bay, shorter commute times going down Highway 80 to the North Sacramento. Or if you're in the sort of South Sacramento, the downtown, midtown grid area working, then Folsom is gonna get the win there. The difference though here is that in Folsom, you could live and work in your same community. There's all the retail jobs, all the big box retail, all the Palladio jobs, all the restaurant jobs, the tech jobs, the education jobs. There's a lot going on in Folsom, and none of that's really going on in Granite Bay. So you could live and work in the same community in Folsom. If you're living in Granite Bay, you're commuting at least a short distance minimum. There's not really going to be any job opportunities right there in Granite Bay for you, save a couple of restaurants or maybe your ranger down at the lake. So if you're really looking to live in a community that has a lot of job opportunities where you may even be able to walk or bike to work, then Folsom is definitely going to be your jam. If you don't mind biting off a little bit of a commute, then all the same job opportunities will be on offer to you from Granite Bay with just a little bit longer drive. All right, that wraps up our discussion of Granite Bay versus Folsom. And I hope this video has helped you decide which of these two communities might be best for your family, or maybe neither of them and you want to look at some other Sacramento suburbs. If you want to do a deeper dive on this, you can click that link in the description down below for our free relocation guide, or you can also click these videos right here for pros and cons of living in Granite Bay, pros and cons of living in Folsom, or our whole town versus town playlist covering all of the different Sacramento suburbs, or just feel free to reach out to me via the contact information on your screen or in the description down below to get some personal advice. Either way, thanks for watching, thanks for making it to the end with me, and I'll see you on the next one.